So this TED Talk is about how to have a good conversation, have a good talk with somebody. It's by Celeste Headley. I don't know how to pronounce her first name, so I'm not going to try. I'm just going to refer to her as Miss Headley. She's just the main person giving the little talk, the conversation, the speech about some tips and tricks to have a good conversation and keep things from starting in an argument. Almost every conversation can turn into an argument nowadays because of all the controversial topics, how people are essentially. Some of a little stat she said was that America is more polarized ever, more now than it has ever been in history before, and it just means that we cannot compromise really. So we just need to learn how to communicate, how to talk with one another without getting mad, and staying calm and just having a simple conversation, respecting each other's beliefs, opinions, thoughts, trying to understand and listen, and not just be so stuck on our presumptive thoughts. A problem nowadays is a lot of kids are growing up with the technology, and technology allows for somebody to just have a conversation over text message rather than having to meet face to face, which can be a problem. And a lot of people are growing up just texting, and when it comes to having a conversation and communicating face to face, they cannot do it, and that results in them struggling in the real world, not being able to do it like some other people can. So she said, Miss Edley refers to there's some 10 excuse me, 10 tips and tricks for people to have a good, effective conversation and be engaged, learn something, and really not come away mad and upset with the other person. The first one is don't multitask. What she means by that is be present in that moment. Don't be half in it and half out of that. So that really just means like I'm talking to you, you're talking to me, but also I'm thinking about what I'm doing later that night. My dinner plans, my weekend plans, whatever it may be. Just instead of just focused on what else I'm going to be doing, just focus on the conversation that you're having. Number 2 is don't pontificate. I believe it. I don't know how to pronounce that. So really what she means is just be open-minded and don't just have preconceived thoughts. Try to be understanding and just listen to what other people got to say. You may be wrong, you may be right, but just try to have an open mind. Bill Nye stated that everyone you will ever meet knows something that you don't. I think that's a very powerful and impactful quote because I think it's true. Everybody has something to offer. Everybody's unique in their own ways. So the number 3 trick or the tip that she offers is use open-ended questions. By that is just try to get them to repeat and respond with something other than a one-word answer. Rather than saying like, how's your day? And somebody saying, oh, it's good. Try to say like, oh, what are your plans later? Are you excited? Like, what do you got going on? It's more of an open-ended question. And number 4 is go with the flow. You never know where conversations are going. Just be understanding, open, and just wherever it goes, just go with it. It doesn't have to go one way or another. Just try to have an open mind. So number 5 is if you don't know, say you don't know. Don't pretend that you know something when you don't. Number 6 is don't equate your experience with them. By that, it just means everybody goes through their own experiences. Everybody goes through their own stuff in their own way. So if you lose a family member, I'm not going to compare my story and talk about how I lost a family member too. Like, your experience is different than my experience, and that's the way it is. You cannot equate each experience to be the same thing. And with that being said, you don't need to prove yourself to somebody. That's not the time to prove how good of a person or how strong of a person you are. Like I said, everybody's experience is different and unique to one another. Number 7 is don't try to repeat yourself. It gets boring over time. People just lose interest and they just stop caring at that point. Number 8 is stay out of the weeds. That's what she said, but really what that means is people don't care about the little details. They want to hear about the story. They don't care about the date, the time, who all was there, but they care more about what happened, the experience, what you learned from it, not the dates or just the little things, and nobody necessarily cares. So spend less time thinking about that and just tell the story or share your experience about it. Number 9 is listening. She said this is the number one skill that people need to have. And I agree. There's a quote that she said is, if your mouth is open, you're not listening. She also said that no man has ever listened his way out of the job. I find that very powerful and impactful, because if you think about it, people lose their job because they'll go and say something, they'll go and do something. You don't ever hear somebody losing a job because they were listening or because they didn't talk. It's always the opposite way, the other way around. But nowadays, people would rather talk. They would rather be the center of attention. They want everybody to be focused on them. They want everybody listening to them. They don't want to listen. That's what's makes those who listen stand out from everybody else. It's the most important skill for somebody to have. And number 10 is just be brief. Like I said, you don't have to give the very little details because nobody's going to really care. Nobody's going to listen to that. Like, you don't need to do that. Just be brief about it. And if they want to ask questions, just answer their questions. Don't just be understanding, be open-minded. Don't get upset about anything that they may ask if they don't know. But when you're having a conversation with somebody, always be interested in the other person. Always show that you're actively engaged and you're interested. Because at the end of the day, everybody has something amazing to offer about themselves. Like I said, you have something to offer that I don't, and I have something to offer that you don't. We don't know what that is yet, but it's there. Keep an open mind and prepare to be amazed. Like, just have an open mind. A lot of arguments and people who don't listen is because somebody doesn't have an open mind and they already have presumptive thoughts, or they think that their way is the right way and it's their way or the highway. No, that's not how a conversation should be. It's a conversation. Like, you should just talk about it, be understanding, listening. An interesting quote that Miss Headley said about somebody listening was this. She said, most people don't listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply. And I find that very interesting because I also agree. I mean, you think about it, most people don't listen to a story because they want to understand the story. They want to inject what they want to say about it. They want to share their opinion on it. Some people may understand it, some people may not, but they're going to respond and they're going to try to reply to it. No. You can say that for anything. I just find that quote to be very powerful and impactful. But overall, I think this TED Talk about having a good conversation and how to prevent arguments with somebody, and these 10 tips, I think they're very useful and they're very helpful. And Miss Headley stated that if somebody were to focus on just one of these and master just one of these 10 things, that they will be phenomenal with the conversation. But let alone if you get a couple of those, I think you really do have a good, strong conversation. You can almost talk with anybody. Not almost anybody, you could have a conversation with anybody.